Hello, everyone. What an exciting month. This month is June, and June in our industry, it's a great month to celebrate the future homeowners in our mortgage industry. So June is home ownership month, and today I have Reynaldo Magdaleno from Remo's team over at Keller Williams Pacific States in Long Beach joining us to fill us in with a lot of great information about how you as a first-time buyer can get yourself into the market and buy your future home. Hi, Reynaldo. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Luz. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to answer a few questions and be part of this interview with you.
Awesome. Well, in celebration of Homeownership Month, it's really exciting to share first-time homeowners information about the buying process, right? What keeps them in the market, keep them motivated. It's really our goal. And in today's episode, we want to share just that. And through your expertise, we want to know a little bit more about how you feel a first-time buyer can continue to have that journey and stay motivated, especially right now with all the tough times and the news that they hear. We know all of those are lies, so we want to keep them pumped up. Okay, so we'll dive into the first question. What are the first steps a potential home buyer should take when they start their home search, right? And everyone has a different answer, so we want to hear from you. Yeah.
Well, internally, I believe it's setting up some kind of timeline. So not until we have a timeline or the buyers have a timeline, and that's when it really happens, when it really starts.
So Reynaldo, one of the questions that homeowners want to know in today's market is what are those steps that they need to take to be able to become homeowners?
Well, that's a great question, Luz. The first step is going to be, speaking with the lender, speaking, with you to see how much they qualify for. And that's really going to drive where we're going to hit, depending on the qualification. That's going to mean where are we going to start looking for homes, what city, what type of home, the location. So again, not until we have that conversation with the lender, that's really what's going to drive us where our direction.
Yeah.
Now let's say you get qualified for $500,000 or even $1 million. At that point, you already know what city, what location, what type of home you're going to be looking at. Again, everything's just based off on the qualification.
Yeah.
Again, best example will be, you go into a dealership or go to a grocery store and not knowing what you have in your wallet and your purse. No one's going to do that. So same thing when shopping for a home.
Yeah. So, one of the things that we get a lot, we're always talking to consumers, right? Through open houses, phone calls, introductions. But one of the things that homeowners are always telling us is, especially when I call them, they say, well, we already talked to a lender and they already told us what we qualify for, right? We hear that often. When you hear that, what do you say? What kind of questions do you ask? Because a lot of times they just talk to a lender, they probably told them what they're qualified for. However, they're still not achieving that goal, right? They've talked to a lender a year ago. There's something there. I think there's a disconnection in between the time they talk to a lender, perhaps a realtor, as to why did they not accomplish that goal. So from your end, a little bit of your insight, what do you think is happening?
Well, it could be, a few things. It could be the communication. It's not strong enough with the lender and the agent and the buyer. It could be, they were just starting their home search. Maybe something was missing. We don't know what was missing a year ago. I want to know when was the last time they spoke with the lender? Was it a year ago? Was it 2 years ago? And how far did you go with the lender? I mean, did you get qualified? And if you did, why didn't you buy? What stopped you from purchasing them? What changed to now? Why buy a home now?
Yeah. And that kind of leads us into the second question, right? Which is, how does a first-time buyer determine, right, when they're ready? Not only that, right, but how do they determine the neighborhood, right? How do they determine what their needs are? What matches onto their lifestyle? Because we hear that often. We got qualified, we went to look at a few homes, and it was not what we're looking for. So from your perspective as a realtor, when you sit down with the client, can you talk to us a little bit about how you determine how that happens? How do we flow from a buyer that's inquiring with us to a very successful buyer that we're able to close in escrow, and that we found them the right neighborhood, what they need, and also matches their lifestyle? Because with the generations changing, the perfect, home with the white picket fence, it's not really what this next generation is changing to.
Mhm. Yeah. So for me, it's after speaking with the lender, seeing how much they qualify for, that's going to determine the location that we're going to start looking for homes. In this market, it's going to be very tough to for first-time home buyers to to buy something in their neighborhood that they're their first choice.
Yeah.
So for most of first-time home buyers, it's going to be, they might not buy the first home in the neighborhood they want. They might not buy their first home that they want. But within time, with job increases, job position, different changes of jobs, or even building equity on their first home, then at that time you could again sell and move somewhere of a better choice, and just keep upgrading the location and the area and the home.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm hearing, it's, perhaps maybe stay in the same neighborhood, but smaller homes. Think of future upgrades, right? Future, just
Right.
get into the real estate market, and then later on being able to find that perfect home. But how about lifestyle, right? Let's talk a little bit about the next generation homeowners lifestyle with, cost of everything being higher, inflation, the cost of buying a coffee, it's now like $7 in some of these places, right? So the next generation has certain lifestyle that they're living up to. That housing, it's still, yes, a big priority, especially among the Latino communities. But how does that someone switch that lifestyle to say, well, now 50%, more like 60%, because when we're calculating income, it's gross, but when the reality is that their net pay takes about 60% of their income into housing. What does you as a real estate professional see? What are those sacrifices and lifestyle that they need to give up when it comes to real estate, right? Is condo a choice for this next generation?
Yeah, we're starting to see a lot of families lean over to condos. They're a little bit more affordable, especially staying here in the LA area. Condos is a great way to to get your foot into a home. Sacrifices, if first time home buyers
Yeah.
want to get into a home, there's a few things that we have to sacrifice. Whether it's going out every weekend, traveling. I know those are hard things to give up, but it is a sacrifice for the future for you, and especially if you have children and you want to raise your family in a home. Some
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's hard, right? Because we sit down with consultations, and we see assets and we see all the liabilities that they have between their current rent, they're eating out. Also, too, we see all the extras expenses, and they just have to sacrifice so much, and a lot of them are just not ready, right? So this is why hearing from the inside of a real estate professional, they can get some tips of what alternative ways and get into a house. Awesome, thanks for that. So Reynaldo, thanks for sharing that information with me. Let's dive into our last question is, what advice would you give to buyers on maintaining their new home and protecting their investment in the future? So they bought their home. Well, how do they do that? Do you recommend they sell right away? Once they get equity, what do they do? What is your advice to first-time homeowners?
From a paperwork standpoint, it's going to be a living trust. So having your home on a living trust is going to be very important, because it's going to protect your future wishes in writing and on paper. God forbid, you pass away, or, become disabled, or, life is life, something happens. So that's going to be the best way to protect your assets and your family.
That's a great tip. Absolutely. And that things are, people don't think about. They acquire a home, they're excited, they get into their property. And like you said, life has surprises for us and we're not prepared. So that's protecting your asset. It's a big one. And a trust is a must for a lot of families.
And second, having a home comes with a cost. There is surprises that happen throughout the years. Could have maintenance, for example. You have a plumbing issue, maybe the water heater goes off. You have to be ready for that. So you have to, set aside and budget yourself, for these things that are gonna happen. Because once you're a homeowner, you no longer have, the landlord that you're gonna be able to call and, get something fixed. And second, just having that extra insurance, a homeowner's insurance, a homeowner's warranty, that's also gonna help you protect your home. If something breaks down, let's say you have a plumbing issue, your water heater breaks down, you want to do any other repairs on your property, setting aside a budget, it's going to help you, with the owning a home, because owning a home, it comes with a cost. So something breaks down, you can't pick up the phone and call, the landlord to come and repair it. There's no one anymore. It's you, and this is what's
what's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we get that a lot. A lot of times the clients, their fear is like, it's just not the house, it's not just the mortgage, it's everything else that comes with it. And I think that's one minor detail that often it's skipped through our advice as consultants, right? Because we're consultants, we're there to consult our clients, and my job as a lender is to consult on the financial part. Realtors have their side. And I think the confidence that's not there with a lot of consumers is to know that when they buy their home and there's assets, they're not there alone, right? There's insurance companies for very minimal cost that will, like you mentioned, apply that roof insurance, that will apply the home warranty, that will cover the cost of a lot of the maintenance that's due in your home, because you're going to need that, because you're not going to have a landlord. So that, it's a great point, Reynaldo. Like, you don't have a landlord, who do you call that's going to help you fix that leakage? Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here. Anything else that comes to mind that you want to share with us? This video is to share with clients that have potentially maybe been on the fence and about purchasing, that are concerned that the prices continue to go up and rates are not dropping. To wrap this up, what do you advise first-time buyers? What should they do?
That's I do get that asked a lot. The rates, the home prices are expensive, or high. I like to understand why buy a home. What's important. Why not stay renting, or their living situation. And
all right, so I'll go like, all right, well, thanks, Reynaldo, for the great advice. I think, every single piece of information provided to us, it's very valuable for first-time buyers. This is why we're doing these episodes, is that they can get more insight from a professional like yourself and learn more about the process and feel more secure about moving forward and going through the process of homeownership. So thank you for being here with us. We'll see more of you. I hope that we can have these follow-up episodes, because we love to hear from our real estate professionals on what our homeowners should be doing to be able to become homeowners. Thank you.